Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. New weekend, new race, and today we will be exploring the history, statistics, my predictions, and everything you need to know about the Chinese Grand Prix.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chinese Grand Prix.
China had actually been keen on hosting Formula One for a while. In the early 90s, they had the Shanghai International Circuit in the south, and there was actually supposed to be a race there in 1999. But unfortunately, the track didn't meet FIA standards, so the entire event was cancelled. And this led to the construction of the current track. The Shanghai International Circuit was completed in April of 2003. And it was a pretty massive project. It took around 18 months to complete and $450 million. It is located in the northeast of Anting town in the Jiading district, about 30 kilometers from city center. The current track hosted races from 2004 to 2019. Then, due to COVID, it was cancelled from 2020 until 2023, but thankfully came back in 2024. And it is contracted to host the Formula One Grand Prix until 2030. The Shanghai International Circuit is a permanent track, and it's interesting to know that it actually used to be a swampland used for rice paddy fields. And this track, like many others in the Formula One calendar, was designed by German Hermann Tilke. It is said that the track's design is inspired by the Chinese symbol Shang, meaning upwards. But you wouldn't be able to tell that by just looking at the track. The paddock is ginormous, and according to Red Bull's official website, it is big enough that you could play elephant polo in it. Personally, I think this is a great video idea for the drivers to do before the race. One of the unique things about this paddock is that each team has its own entire building. I haven't been able to find any information regarding this, but given that Cadillac is joining the grid next year, I'm wondering if they have to add a new building. The circuit is 5.451 kilometers long and features 16 challenging turns. The track's standout features are two snails that are very tight corners and nearly 270 degrees. The snail of turn 1, 2, 3, and 4 has a closing radius, meaning that it gets tighter, and it creates a lot of pressure and degradation on the left side tires. In the opposite way, turn 11, 12, and 13 has an opening radius and creates more degradation on the right tires. Now let's talk about the winners of the Chinese Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton is the ultimate GOAT of this track, winning 6 times in 2008, 2011, 14, 15, 17, and 19. And as for the constructors, Mercedes has dominated this track, winning obviously with Lewis in 2014, 15, 17, and 19, and with Nico Rosberg in 2012 and 16. Among the current drivers, apart from Lewis Hamilton, there's only 2 other drivers that have won this Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso won in 2005 and 2013, and Max Verstappen won in 2024. So it is quite possible that we'll see a new winner this season. Now, when it comes to jaw-dropping moments, it is worth noting that the Shanghai International Circuit is relatively new compared to a lot of the other venues on the Formula One calendar. However, that doesn't mean that there haven't been some memorable moments on this track. One of the most significant moments happened in 2007. The Chinese Grand Prix was the penultimate race of the season, and Hamilton was leading the driver standings in the championship. If he finished third in this race, he'd practically secure the championship. Now, Lewis qualified pole, which was a great start. However, it was raining during the race, and the McLaren tires were struggling. Hamilton's pace started to drop, and he was called into the pits on lap 30. By this time, the rain had stopped, but the pit lane hadn't dried as quickly as the track. Hamilton slid wide into the gravel and got beached, ending his chances of winning the race and the championship, which was won by Kimi Räikkönen. Now it's time for my predictions for this weekend. This track is great for overtaking. In 2016 alone, there were 161 overtakes. So I'm expecting to see at least 3 drivers to be leading the race at different points. I've also chosen Fernando Alonso to be a driver that surprises me this weekend. Alonso was unable to finish the Australian Grand Prix last week, but it wasn't really his fault or the car. And this is mostly based on a gut feeling, but I think he'll end up pretty high in the standings, maybe 4th. Now, before I go into my podium predictions, there are some things that we have to take into account for this race. Recently, the FIA introduced new limits on flexible wings. This is to reduce the use of flexible components that could provide aerodynamic advantages to some teams. Previously, the rear wing was allowed to flex by 2 millimeters, but it has been reduced to 0.5. Since this rule change was so sudden, for the Shanghai Grand Prix, there will be a tolerance of 0.25 millimeters, but the rule will be fully enforced in Japan. Also, by the time that I'm filming this video, 4 teams haven't had their cars delivered yet. Those teams are McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin, and Red Bull. Now, I don't know if this is part of the Ferrari strategy, but this could complicate the performance of those 4 teams. Another thing that hasn't arrived yet to China is the Pirelli tires. They are supposed to arrive right before the first practice. Because of this, the teams have been given a little bit of leniency when it comes to curfew, but I've heard that a lot of the engineers are just enjoying their day off. And now, let's talk about my podium predictions. This weekend we have a sprint race, and to be honest, I have no idea how to predict this, so I'm just gonna throw a few guesses out. For third place, I'm going with Charles Leclerc, second place Lando Norris, and first place Max Verstappen. And when it comes to the main race on Sunday, for third place, I went with Lewis Hamilton. Lewis had a tough time in the Australian Grand Prix, but he won this race 6 times, and I think that has to count for something. We'll have to see how the Ferrari strategy plays out, and I hope that Lewis and his engineer smooth things out, because last week's radios were a mess. Both of the Ferraris had chaotic radios last week.
Can use K1, may you close?
Can you do it, please?
K1 available?
Yes, I know.
Is there a leakage?
A leakage of what?
I have the seat full of water, like full of water.
Must be the water.
Let's add that to the weather office now.
So I hope they figure it out, and if not, at least it's going to be entertaining. For second place, I went with Lando Norris. He's been consistently strong this season, and by that I mean the only race we had. I think he's definitely a top contender to win the race this year, and he has definitely improved in his consistency and not allowing the pressure to get to him, especially when he's on pole position. For first place, it's hard to look past Max Verstappen. Yes, he didn't win last race, but he almost caught up to Norris in a Red Bull, which was incredible. Plus, the new FIA regulation might play a little bit in his favor, but we won't really know how it affects all the cars until the race happens. But more importantly, he absolutely dominated this race last year. He won both the sprint and the race with a 13-second lead. So he's definitely comfortable in this track, and he is going to be very tough to beat. But that's all for the Chinese Grand Prix preview. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive. Don't forget to leave your own predictions down in the comments. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. We have finally reached 50 subscribers, which is insane. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.